Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video, well, it's Wednesday, so you know what that means. Yep, it's time for another midweek mini mail call. This time we're up to number 24, I think. And if you noticed last time, it was actually not super long of a video, unlike the one before that, which was crazy long. This one shouldn't be too long. I'm trying to keep these a little more short, a little more concise, and a little more watchable. So anyway, without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, here's a package. This one is from Matthias in Zurich, Switzerland. Hi to all my Swiss viewers. I am not sure I've ever gotten anything from Switzerland yet. Or have I? Anyways, this package arrived on the 20th of September. It's been a little bit of time. Sorry, Matthias. Oh boy, and there's lots of packing foam that's disintegrating. What's this? The note says, "Hi Adrian, I finally got around to mail you the 2 Jazz Drives. I had planned to recover the data, but time passed and I lost most of the cartridges. There are also a few chips and I think a ROM chip in here. Cheers and thanks for the videos, Matthias." Thank you, Matthias. I love the postcard. All right, let's just quickly see what we got here. I'll unwrap it very quickly. All right, so let's see here. So there is one Jazz Drive. Seems to be installed in one of these hot swappable hard drive things, but there it is. It's an internal SCSI Jazz Drive with a disc inside still. And it looks like here we have another Jazz Drive. This time it was in an enclosure of some kind and it's been removed. Original power supply is still on here though. We have a PCM CIA card of some kind, card bus adapter. Looks like a video adapter for a Macintosh. Oh boy, and guess what this is? Gotta bring out the RAM. It's some memory. I think every time I get RAM, I'm gonna have to bring out the RAM. We need to come up with a name for the RAM here. Is it a boy or a girl? And what's the name? So put your comments and your suggestions in the comment section below. Maybe Ramekin, Rammy? Rammy, I mean, I'm gonna go with Rammy right now. So for this mail call video, it'll be Rammy. Okay, let's take a look at this stuff on the bench. All right, I have the Mac Stealth Classic 2 on the bench here, so we can take a look at the 2 Jazz Drives that Matthias sent in. I'm glad that there's one disc inside this drive because I'm pretty sure I don't have any discs. So I have my SCSI cable here with the terminator on it. So really the first question is does this drive even work? Let me power it up and see if it spins up the disc. Is that good or bad sound? That sounds good. Okay, look at that. So I need to prop this drive on something because the terminator hangs down off the bottom. So I'll use the dead parts bin, which just happens to be handy. Okay, and power up the Mac. Maybe I should plug the power into the Mac. Then that would help. Now we power up the Mac. While the Mac boots, let's just take a look at this Jazz Drive. That's pretty nice. 2 gigabytes on this little cartridge here. So these cartridges were pretty expensive, but nonetheless, just a very cool little drive, small physical size, 3.5 inch and 2 gigs, although this says 1 gigabyte on here, but it does say 2 gigabytes right on the front here. So this must be a later drive that I guess supports both. If we look at the other drive that he sent along, this one says 1 gigabyte right there, as opposed to the 2 gigabyte here. So this is obviously the earlier drive. And that maybe this thing can only read these discs and not write to them. Not quite sure, we'll figure that out in a second. Actually, we'll just leave this out for now. Let's see if the computer sees the drive. First, let's check SCSI probe, see what this sees. Okay, so it's not even showing up. It could be set to drive ID 0 though, which conflicts with the hard drive and the computer might have booted anyways. Looking on the bottom of the drive, there's a little flap here with some jumpers, and definitely there are no jumpers there. There are 3 jumpers, 3, sorry, not 2, 3. And that would imply that's the SCSI ID, because it's 0 to 7, And with no jumper set, that would imply that it is ID 0, which conflicts with the hard drive here. So I'm just going to install a couple jumpers on here. I have the power off to the Jazz drive, and then hopefully we will see it on the Mac. All right, so this is either going to be ID 3 or ID 6. Not sure which one. So I'm going to put this little piece of tape back on here. Obviously, this has to do with dust prevention. Feel very silly. I installed jumpers there when there's 3 more here that say A0, 1, and 2, which these are clearly the SCSI ID, not those. Now we hit update. Fingers crossed it's going to work. There it is, iOmega Jazz 2 GB. Awesome. So I actually have the iOmega tools on the Mac, but I'm pretty sure these are not for the zip drive. Yeah, I can't find a zip drive. So, sorry, this is not for the Jazz drive. It's only for the zip drive. That's fine. Let's just run Silver Lining because it should be able to see this 1 GB cartridge without any issue. So I'm just going to put this 2 GB cartridge carefully into this drive. It sounds totally fine when it spins up, no weird noises. So that's good. All right, back on the Mac, let's hit rescan. So it should show the size, 1040 megabytes, that is correct. Before I format this drive, let's just go back to SCSI Probe and mount this. Maybe it's a Macintosh disk, could be. Could be for OS X or something else though. Mount. Not doing anything. So I'm assuming it's formatted some other file format like OS X or something, and not for this older version of the Mac. So let's just go initialize. It's going to initialize it. Sweet, this does seem to be working well. I'm just going to name the volume Jazz 1 GB. We'll update this. It's going to create a Mac volume called Jazz 1 GB. All seems well, no strange noises. This thing is definitely working. The drive is just slowly formatting, so while it's doing that, I've extricated the 1 GB drive from this little hard drive enclosure. I'm not going to test this specifically because I have no idea if this is a multi-voltage power supply or is it just 220 volts. So because of that, I am not going to use it. The power supply design itself seems decent, though. It's certainly very compact. But I like this little copper heatsink here on the switching transistor. And it's got 2 somewhat beefy diodes on the output here, because there's going to be 2 windings on here, one for 12 volts and one for 5 volts. Anyhow, this is the Jazz external kit there. It says here, Anaconda Jazz 1 GB external kit. This, like I said, is the 1 gig drive. Doesn't have that plastic cover on the bottom. It wasn't set to any SCSI ID. So I set it for 3 as well. Looks relatively similar as this drive underneath there. Look, and while I was talking, it finished formatting, Jazz 1 GB. So there it is. 1 GB available. I'll just copy a couple files on here, so when we test the other drive, there is something to see on it. I'll put these games on it. It's going to take a minute to copy, so while it does, let's just take a look quickly at this stuff. So this little video adapter, it looks like it's a VGA 15 pin to a Macintosh monitor. So I suppose if you have a Mac multi-tape monitor, you can use this to try to connect it to either a Mac that has a VGA style output or potentially even a PC. I don't have any Macs that use this particular, it's making unhealthy sounding clunky, clicky noises right now. And on the Mac here, it stopped copying because it says the disk is damaged. So that's not good. I wonder if it's the disk problem or the drive. Okay, so I exited out of there. I think I need to go back to Silver Lining and do a verify on the disk. That's going to take a little bit of time, I think. Warning, note, the disk has experienced 2 errors and another 4 corrected with retries. Let's just do the short test here, see what that does. All right, so while it does testing, we'll go back to these things. Okay, so yeah, monitor adapter. I don't have a monitor that would use that, but I'm just going to toss it in my box full of adapters. Here is that card bus adapter here, CDRW interface card. Card bus or 16-bit, made by Toshiba. This was obviously for an external laptop CD-ROM drive. Unfortunately, I don't have any kind of the interface cable, some kind of very proprietary interface cable. Yeah, it's got some Japanese writing on the back here. So yeah, okay. And he sent me a little bit of RAM. This was just some various memory. Looks like SD RAM, these two here. This one obviously says 64 megs, but this one, it doesn't show any capacity. And this is, I don't even know what this is. This is very weird RAM. It's got 3 things here. Okay. So right there it says Apple. Samsung part from 1994. So maybe this was some kind of video RAM module. If anyone recognizes this type of connector, please let me know. And then I'll label this to say what it's for. But for now, I have no idea. So the tests are running. It says it's going to take 40 minutes. So I guess we wait. So it's been running for about 15 minutes and it's read about 12, 13%. And it's definitely making kind of clunky noises when it's got to this point on the disk. It says it has 8 errors here. I have no idea if it's actually going to try to map out these bad sectors or what. And I may need the iOmega tools to accomplish that. So I guess I'll let this run. Although perhaps I should fire up this 1 GB drive and then we'll see if this disk has similar issues in this drive. And that'll help us determine whether it's a drive problem or is it the actual Jazz disk itself. I'm shutting down the computer and it did eject the disk automatically, so that's nice. The Mac, it's trying to shut down, I guess. It seems kind of frozen. What you doing, Macintosh? Can't click on anything. All right, just turn you off. So this is the 1 gig drive hooked up. Let me power it up. Didn't make a sound. So I'll power the Mac on. Make sure we see it in SCSI Tools, or is that what it's called? SCSI. Oh, I forgot the name of it already. How weird. While we wait for the computer to boot, let's take a look at the postcard that Matthias sent. So I just wanted everyone to see a nice close-up view of the nice postcard. That's kind of cool. I do love old-timey scenes like this. And as you see there, it says Assembly Hall, 1930. It's interesting. This person here is using this drill press. And I was just watching a video on post-apocalyptic Inventor. He has a great channel. He's a German guy where he goes to scrap heaps, among other things, and he finds old tools and then he restores them. And I swear that he fixed a drill press that looked just like that. Like this really cool old looking drill press. It had a frame that, if it wasn't the same one, it was very, very similar to that. All right, the computer's booted up. Let's go to SCSI Probe. That's what I was looking for. There it is, Jazz 1 gig drive. Let's put this disk in here. The startup sound of this one didn't sound so great. I'm not sure how clearly that came across on the video. Now that it's spinning, sounds fine. So we'll hit mount, see what happens. Oh, there it is. Showed up on the disk on the desktop. So I'm just going to run that same diagnostic test again with silver lining, and we'll see if we see those same errors. And I was just about to start the test. I see here the full test does the maps out bad sectors. So that's the one that we may need to do. And then look, there's a format as well, which probably is the best thing to do. Just format that entire disk if it's bad and map out any bad sector. So I'll just do the short test first and make sure that those read errors appear in the same position after 12, 13%. All right, well, it actually finished. It's on its second pass. No errors whatsoever with the 1 GB drive and this 1 gig cartridge. So that implies that there's nothing wrong with this cartridge, and it's this 2 gig drive that's actually faulty-ish. So I'm gonna write on here marginal, just so I can keep track that this 2 gig drive is potentially problematic. Maybe these don't do a great job at reading the 1 gig disks. I mean, that might be it. If you're familiar with, using these drives, and if that might be the case, please let me know in the comment section below. I won't trash this drive or anything like that. I'll keep it in case it works properly with 2 gig cartridges and I end up with one in the future, because it's not like this takes up much room. But for now, it's nice to have a working 1 gig drive with a 1 gig cartridge. Awesome. There's also this hard drive case that he sent along, and I think this actually might be the same as this one. No, it's not actually. It's different. And the reason why I thought that originally is it said something about Anaconda Jazz 1 gigabyte. So Anaconda, whatever that means. I suppose this was a company here called SyQuest that was putting the Jazz drives in these things here. It does have some Dutch writing on the back here, which I will not attempt to read. I just noticed here there's a US plug on the back. So I guess this is a multi-voltage power supply and designed to potentially work here, because that's kind of dangerous. Someone could plug a IEC cable in there and then go plug a 110 volt thing into here. And if you're in a 220 volt country, boom, boom, boom. Well, of course, that's if the thing you're plugging in doesn't support 220. I might as well just give this thing a little quick test, see if it actually powers up. I'm not going to plug the Jazz drive into here. I'll just plug in an old kind of junky hard drive, because if it fries it, I won't care. And let's see if this thing actually works. If not, maybe this will be a future repair video, this switch mode power supply in here. Here's another SCSI drive for testing. It's a LaCie drive. We'll just pop this here. It's an old Connor. Uses up a good amount of power, so let's test this switch mode power supply. Here we go. That sounds good. Thumbs up. This is actually a multi-voltage little external case, which is perfect. So I can take this 1 gig Jazz drive here, mount it in that little external carrier thingy, this thing. Look, there's actually some screws in there, and then I can have this thing external and make it easy to use with the Mac. All right, there it is. The Jazz drive is mounted inside this case. I even hooked up the SCSI ID selector. There's a little selection thingy here. I hook that up. The little wires are right under there. And the only thing this is missing is it's got one of the rubber feet and the others are missing. So that's kind of a bummer, but whatever. I can just put some stick-on rubber feet on there and it's fine. For simplicity, we'll boot up the Mac first, then I'll power this on so I can check for that ID. And sorry, Matthias, I'm gonna try to take off this Apple sticker. Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of the Apple stickers. I mean, they gave these out when you bought Macintoshes back in the day. You got a little pack of these colored Apple stickers. And I know it's vintage and everything. It just, on this disk drive, I'm on the Jazz drive, I'm not loving how it looks. So yeah, people are probably cringing, thinking I should leave that on there, but this drive I'll probably use on Amiga and other things. It's not just for Macintosh. Plus the sticker's a little scratched up, it's a little ratty. This case is either really dirty or really could use a retro bright. But yeah, the sticker wasn't in great condition anyway, so that's really why I took it off. There is ID 1, and that's what it's set to on the back. In fact, I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to change the ID, and we'll see if that reflects correctly there. Because if I have the cables hooked up wrong, switching this to ID 2, for instance, may show something totally different. All right, so it's set for 2 on the drive. We'll power this on, and let's hit update. And there we go, ID 2, it's working. I just hit the top of this with some magic eraser, and now I'm just gonna clean it with a little Windex and a little microfiber cloth action. Makes a big difference. The case was a little grimy. I mean, it is about 20 years old, so it's completely understandable that it's not perfectly clean anymore. I mean, that's what happens. There we go. That square where the sticker was is still just ever so slightly visible, but hardly at all. So there it is. There's a little green power LED. There was some wires in there to hook up for a drive access LED, but it's not really necessary because, of course, Jazz Drive has a light right there. So we'll slide this in. And we're gonna hit mount on SCSI probe, and that should mount this disc, maybe. Cool, and there's some of those games I copied. Of course, it errored out because I was using the 2 gig drive to copy them originally, but what's left is there. And this drive is working well. So thank you very much, Matthias, for sending me this stuff to mail call. Okay, we have a small package here from JL in Maryland, which is a state in the US. It's just a thin little light one. I got this package on the 22nd of September. I got a peek what this is already. Gonna have to bring out Rammy because it's more RAM. Let's take a look at what kind of RAM this is. It appears to be DDR2 memory. Thank you, JL. I do have quite a bit of this now, so I'm pretty much good. Rammy represents that, so yeah, thank you. Here's a package, and this one comes from Sam in Pennsylvania. That is one of the battleground states. It's called In the Election. I am filming this one day after the US election, and Pennsylvania is definitely going to be an important state when it comes to who wins the presidential election in the US. All right, Sam has sent quite a bit of stuff here. Let's dig this out. All right, so Sam writes, hope you're doing well with this human malware. I've enclosed a variety of things. This should be everything you need to get the TI up and running smoothly. So I think everyone has seen that I think I have at least one more TI99 that does need a repair. I've also included a few PEB cards for the TI if you ever choose to get the PEB or peripheral expansion blocks. This was TI's answer to people who had 10 sidecar devices with their computers like the speech synthesizer, and here's a photo of it. And that is the TI PEB box, peripheral expansion box. Sam does right. Other than that, enjoy it all. And I hate to have thrown these extra PCBs away. So I think that's some of the stuff he has sent me. And he has some parts lists for, I think, some of the PCBs he's included. All right, the first bag. It appears that, oh, Sam the man, he has sent me a ton more switch parts. And these look just like Alps SKCC switches, which, as everyone knows, I have been really struggling with on the Apple II. So check that out. A nice bag full of them, plus black keys for some of the TIs probably. In here, there's a giant card of some kind. Oh, a couple cards. Oh, so these are the cards for the expansion module. So we have an RS-232 and a disk controller. Okay, I've unwrapped everything. So let's see here really quickly. Here's a PCB for something called the Sputnik beeper. Not quite sure what that is, but there's a big PCB here. I think this is a 4-bit computer. Yes, there is a photograph of it. That does look like an analog computer. Cool. This is some kind of a DDL demo board, DDL 1-bit memory board. Okay. Bunch of random PCBs here. This one here looks like it's for a CRT socket. Or rather, no, it's for a Nixie thermometer kit. And he sent the entire kit here. Then we have a card edge connector adapter of some kind. And in this bag, it looks like it's a 74XX clock. So 74 TTL logic clock, I guess. So very cool. Thanks a lot, Sam. Let's take a look at this stuff on the bench. So where do we start with all the stuff that Sam sent? I guess let's start with the keyboard stuff. So this appears to be a full keyboard, or at least all the keys, for a TI99 with the black keys. Now I am noticing though that's sort of a plus mount, which is not compatible with these SKCC switches. So he sent me in the past switches for my beige TI99, right? Oh, look at this, awesome, so many SKCC switches. This is exactly what I need for the Apple II to get that thing working. Love it. So many switches, so many. I'm thinking now though, I wonder if I should just throw all of these into the sonic cleaner. Because, I mean, last time he sent me switches, most of them worked perfectly, but a couple of them were a bit flaky. And I don't remember if they worked or were cleaned up in the sonic cleaner, started working properly. But maybe I should just do that with all these, just as a kind of insurance policy. So yes, so definitely very cool. But like I mentioned, these switches are not the same. Or are they? Wait a second. So are these keys actually compatible with the SKCC switches? Is that for real? No, that can't be. Wait a second, they do work. Oh, that's really cool. So that actually means I could convert that beige TI99 I have. That's a beige Alps SKCC keyboard. I could switch it over to the black keys. And the good thing about that is then I can take that keyboard and put it into my nice silver, really good condition working TI99, which has a kind of cruddy keyboard. I don't remember what brand it is, but it's not nearly as nice as the Alps one. But I can put these keys onto the beige one, and I'm pretty sure the keyboard itself is interchangeable between all the TIs. So that's definitely something I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it in the mail call video here, but that is going to be the plan at this point, because I'd much prefer the silver TI look over the beige one. And if I could make it have a nice Alps keyboard, bonus. Let's take a look at these chonky expansion cards. Wow, this thing is made like a tank. Pretty surprising, to be honest. I mean, not that the TI99 was a cheaply made computer, but to make something like this that is so chonky and ridiculously heavy is a bit surprising. It really is. So I've never actually used the expansion module or expansion cage thing myself, so I can't even say how these slot in, but I see a card edge connector here, and the side of the case has a groove there, and there's one there. So this must go in like this, and there's a back plane. And I guess this sticks out the top, and maybe there's room inside the case for you to run a ribbon cable out the back. And this, I'm not quite sure. So yeah, don't really know. And then of course that expansion chassis had room for floppy drives. So it gave the TI99 actual disk drive interfaces. And right here is that disk controller. So card edge connector again. And I'm pretty sure it uses like a Sugart style interface, although this notch is in a slightly different position if this is the same 34 pin connector. Although maybe this is the standard floppy drive interface cable for hooking up a second drive. I'm not quite sure. But yep, it's got these little pull tabs again, edge connectors. Oh, look at this. Blue LED. Hey, this has got screws. Let me open this up. Let's take a look inside. I think I gotta take these little clips off and kind of hold the case together. That one, and this one over here. And now I should be able to lift this off. Oh, there's a sticker. Oh yeah, so I don't want to rip the sticker, so I'm just gonna fold it open. If I ever saw something that was over-engineered, this is that. I mean, this case, it's like cast, it's just crazy. All right, so there is the PCB for the disk controller. I mean, it's got these chips here. These are either ROMs or they are SRAMs, but they're something. Here's the floppy drive controller. We got an FD17 or 1771B-01. 1981 is the date code. A bunch of 74LS logic. Of course, it's all TI. And there's not a whole bunch else going on here. Oh, that chip, it's not TI. How did that happen? But look at this, a blue LED, clearly retrofit, because in 1981, there was no such thing as a blue LED. I just love, look at these resistors. They're kind of a pink color. It's kind of cool, I've never seen that. And yeah, there's a little bit of flux residue there from when the blue LED was swapped in. And I do have to point out that construction quality on this board is the same as the TI99 itself, where there's no solder mask around the pins that go on the IC. So it's easy to accidentally bridge things. Fascinating. All right, so let's put this back together. And I'm wondering, now that looking at this, he switched out the LED, or someone did. I wonder if they switched the resistor here, because it uses this transistor here, so base emitter collector, and the resistor here will be needed because 5 volts into a blue LED is way too much. And if that blue LED was swapped out, say in the early 2000s or whenever blue LEDs kind of came on the market, it would have been a pretty expensive part. You wanted to make sure you didn't overdrive it and destroy it. Of course, blue LEDs now are dime a dozen and worthless and common and whatever. But back then, when they first came out, I remember I retrofitted an old stereo I had, the volume knob. Remember how stereos had motorized volume knobs back in the day? And it had a little red LED on it. A friend of mine helped me switch mine out to be a blue LED. And I remember I was so proud of that. Maybe that was in the late 90s, actually, now that I think about it, that I did that. It was sometime in the 90s I switched that out, and I was like in awe of this amazing blue LED. It just looked so cool. And now I actually kind of hate blue LEDs. I don't hate them, but I mean, if they're overused and everything, it feels like. So I actually don't really like them. But yeah, anyways. All right, so yeah, there's the chonky disc controller and the chonky RS-232 controllers for the TI-99. Here's one of the kits that he has sent along, 74XX clock. And actually, I forgot, he has a packing list here. So let's just check this out here. 74XX clock, and he has the link to it as well. So if you want to make one yourself, I'll put these links in the description below. Yeah, look at this. Sam sent everything needed. Okay, that's a lot of components for the clock there. He sent me 2 identical PCBs. And he may have actually sent enough parts for both. And 1 IC. So yeah, clearly I guess Sam built one of these up. And the 7-segment displays, which probably were right here along this top row, I'd imagine. Those aren't included in here, but those are readily available and very common. And here is the schematics. Seconds reset button, minutes reset, hours setup. Got some capacitors here. Yep, so there's the 6 7-segment displays. There are probably 2 red LEDs that are used for the flashing. Oh, actually, there's more than 2. There are 4 there used for the the seconds and the minutes little colons. 74XX IC-based digital clock A Das TTL Grab Unwerk. Oh man, my German is terrible. TTL Grab in German literally means TTL grave, a board with TTL chips arranged in rows and columns that look like a graveyard. Well, I gotta say, this is a pretty cool little kit. I'm not gonna build this now on mail call because there's missing parts and stuff, but I may need to build this because I do kind of love the way this looks. It would be cool if the clock part actually stood up at a perpendicular 90-degree angle from this main PCB, like it had a little separate PCB with the 7-segment display and you could plug it in. That would be pretty cool. But nonetheless, this is still just cool. And I probably have all the 74LS logic chips sitting around, all the parts that people have sent me. And the fact that he sent along the crystals means that I probably don't need to buy anything. Maybe I have to buy some push buttons. I think there were 3 push buttons. But yeah, very cool. Let's keep looking through the stuff here. We've got some random PCBs. So this one here says electrolytic capacitor ESR tester. On the note, he said ESR test, no idea. Unfortunately, there's no component values written on this PCB, so no URL. So if anyone knows the project for this, where I could get a list of the components, please let me know. I don't need an ESR tester myself, but these PCBs are good and I could give them away to other people that could build them. They just need to know what parts to put together on there. Here are 3 of the same PCBs. It says Clock by Dave Astels. Okay, 2 555 timers. So maybe this thing just makes the LEDs blink alternately. That's my guess of what that does. Well, these, that's definitely a tube socket, like for a CRT or even just a vacuum tube. And it seems to just break out the wires. So perhaps you install a tube socket and then put this on the back of a CRT for connecting to it. Who knows? Okay, I really like this one. There are 2 of these PCBs, and this is a TV Be Gone. I take it some type of microcontroller here, maybe like an AT-Tiny, ICSP header, couple passives, and then we have LEDs, which are the transmitter. So what this does is you program the microcontroller to essentially send the off command for like every known TV, and it just sits there and goes through every command. So if you're in a restaurant with a noisy TV that's blasting and no one's watching it and it's just annoying, you would activate this and set it pointing at the TV, and after 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, goes through every single code and should turn the TV off. And hopefully it sticks. And then the servers come over and are like, why is the TV off? And they turn it back on, and then you just boop, turn it off again. They might think their TV's broken, who knows? These were sold for a while. I remember TV Be Gone was like a little key fob looking thing, not cheap. So I guess someone came up with a little PCB to do it. Although it all matters about what kind of microcontroller this is, and then how do you program it. So if anyone knows the URL to this, if this is like an open source project, please let me know, because I actually might build one of these up. Next up, we have these PCBs here. So this is the DDL Demo 1-bit memory by Z-Not Laboratories. So I think this paper here actually explains what this is. says here the DDL demo board implements an SR latch circuit using only 4 common diodes and 2 LEDs as active elements. The circuit can store a single bit of a user's choice. So what you're doing is you're using just diodes to create a latch. So you have the 2 LEDs, that's the on or off, so 1 or 0, and you push the appropriate button and then it turns the light on and it will stay on until you turn it off. So it's kind of cool. Just a little experiment of doing this without using a logic chip or anything like that to actually store a value. These are those edge connector breakouts that I was talking about, and I'm wondering if this is for the TI99. This kind of looks like the cartridge connector, and maybe you can plug that in there, and then you can install like a 40-pin IDE cable or whatever this is, and run a ribbon cable out to a dev board, a breakout board. So this might be just good for doing development work with the TI. That's what I'm thinking that this is. If anyone knows for sure, let me know, but this connector looks very much like the TI, and of course Sam is big on the TI, so makes sense as well. All right, this here is the Nixie clock kit. And he mentions here is the kit. So this is it right here. And he says it didn't come with any tubes though. So we'll need tubes if I want to build this up. And it's funny, I was just talking to someone the other day about a Nixie tube clock and how it would be really fun to build one. Oh, actually, wait, I'm sorry. I thought this was a clock. Did I misread what he wrote on the paper? He just said Nixie kit. Okay, so it's a thermometer. Okay, well, that's a little bit less interesting. A clock seems a little bit more fun. Yeah, I am interested in a Nixie tube clock. That is something that would be fun. But obviously, all the various components are in here. We got 2 Nixie tube sockets. And I guess, I don't know. This is probably the temperature sensor, I would imagine. All right, and then the last thing, or actually maybe the second to last thing, is this 4-bit computer. So he writes, this is a 4-bit computer. He has the URL, which I'll put in the description, but it looks to be using entirely discrete logic. So no TTL chips or anything. This would be using probably diodes, I guess, entirely just diodes. On the back of the PCB here, add 4, add 1, add 2, and add 8. So I guess these are the adders. And this is probably the parts list. And look, there it is, assembled. You got your LEDs, you got your switches, power, runs off a 9-volt battery. I wonder what this is. This looks like a single one of the adders, perhaps. Yep, I think it is one of the adders on a standalone board. Well, that's very cool. So this is definitely a project for a rainy day. And there's this piece of paper folded up with some stuff in here. All right, okay, so this is the Sputnik beeper. Does this replicate the circuit that was inside Sputnik, basically? That just transmitted a beep? Here it is, look, the recreation of the PCB inside the commemorative model of Sputnik from 1957. So the commemorative Sputnik. So we have the A-stable multi-vibrator here and the bridge oscillator, and then there's the audio amplifier. So again, like this was a commemorative one that created an actual audible beeping sound through a speaker as opposed to transmitting it like the original Sputnik did. Well, very cool. Sam, thank you very much for sending all this stuff in, especially this big bag of keys and these big bag of switches. Very useful. I need to fix the Apple II Plus, has one bad key again, so these will come in super handy right now. And then all these other kits will be great for a rainy day when I feel like building something up and just doing something kind of mindless, soldering components on boards. I love it. It's just kind of peaceful and cathartic. Anyhow, thank you again for everything you've donated to the channel. I really appreciate it. All right, we have a letter. This comes from Stuart, and I think it's from Kansas. The return label, it's a bit scratched off, so can't really tell. Oh, although the postmark here is from Indiana. Interesting. Okay, so in here, oh, all right. Okay, he writes, I found this at this website, and it is a printout of error codes for the SyQuest drive. I had a mail call a while back where I had weird flashing problems and stuff like that with error codes, and I definitely had issues. And this does have the flashing error codes for the 88 meg version that I was testing with right here. Now, I think I did see this when I Googled around, And unfortunately, I had no luck. The error codes I was getting didn't seem to match what was on all this documentation. He does write at the top here, he was sleuthing and he was unable to find the manual, which is what I was really looking for that, because I wanted to know how the diagnostic routines work and whatnot. But it seems like no one has ever uploaded the 88 meg manual for the SyQuest drive. So thank you very much, Stuart, for sending that in. All right, we have a package here. This one comes from Mitch in Iowa. Hi to all my Iowa viewers. I got this package on the 28th of September. So this is my last September package of all the mail call packages I have here. We have a note here, and we have a little power supply of some kind. The note reads, "Thank you for everything you do on your channel. Your videos inspire me to get off my butt and get something done." Oh, that's great. I especially enjoy the troubleshooting that you do. When the mail call video started, I realized I had something that I think you might have a use for. I have owned this probably for 20 years, and I used it when I was younger. It has not been used in probably 15 years, but used to work flawlessly. Hopefully you will get lots of use out of it. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Mitch, for the nice note. I think this is a zip drive, or something like that. And it is. This appears to be a parallel zip drive, which actually can be quite useful. If you're trying to get files on and off of an old PC, like an IBM PC 5160, for instance, if it has a parallel port, it generally works with this. If you don't have, say, a network card like I do have in this PC right here, this is a convenient way to copy files off the hard drive. They're very useful. All right, cool. Let's see if this thing still works over on the bench. So the parallel port zip drives come with this kind of cable. It's DB25, but one end is male, one end is female. I'm actually not sure if this is just a straight through, but it does say zip on one of the plugs and the other one says I omega. The zip end is what plugs into the back of the zip drive. So it says zip right there. So you just connect that up like this, and then you can plug a printer into here, and I guess you could use a printer at the same time as using the zip drive. Mitch included the original power adapter, which is good. This is a nice switching version. Some of the earlier zip drives had a larger brick that I don't think was switching, and those seem to fail quite a bit. They don't fail catastrophically where it kills the zip drive, but it definitely, they stop working. It's definitely something to keep in mind if you buy a zip drive and it doesn't work properly. The first thing to suspect is the power supply. I've had a bunch of zip drives where the power supply just quit working altogether. And the only thing that's sort of nice is this right angle power connector, because it allows you to plug into the zip drive on the side like that. And then if you want, you can prop the zip drive up on its side. And of course, if you use a connector that sticks out the side, it'll work. It'll just only work when the zip drive is flat like this. So I'm going to plug the power in, and that doesn't look right. Both lights shouldn't be on like that. So I don't really trust that that's working. I happen to have another power supply. This is one that I made somewhere on here. There it is. The wire is soldered together. This is just a regular 5-volt power supply. That's all you need to power up a zip drive. So let's try this one on here. When I plug it in, both lights come on. It flashes for a second, and then it goes off. That's what it should do. So I happen to have a zip disk right here. Let's put this in, see if this thing spins up. That sounds totally normal. Let's eject it. Nice. So as I had mentioned, this is great for old machines like this Panasonic Toughbook. Definitely seen this on the channel before. If you want to copy large numbers of files on and off a machine like this, these parallel port zip drives are perfect. Pretty much every old PC like this is going to have a normal parallel port, and that means that you can use a zip drive like this. I think it should work all the way back to the very earliest PCs, but I am not positive about that. Let's plug this into the Toughbook here, and let's power this up. Now the guest utilities, that's the utilities you would run in DOS to be able to use this as a disk drive or as a drive letter that you can access. You can find those online if you just Google for guest zip drive utilities DOS, something around there. You will find exactly what you need. I just did a quick Google and I found those utilities, which I have already copied onto this computer through the floppy drive. So while this computer says it's booting Windows 95, it actually is configured just to go straight to DOS. I'm gonna stick this zip disk in here. And if I go to Utils, iOmega, I'm gonna run guest, and that should, if this drive is working, there it is. iOmega zip 100 is drive letter D. Let's check out D. And let's look, I copied some stuff on here. Yep, I have some utilities, some apps. Let's run speed 600, which is like the crappy landmark speed benchmark utility. And that's running off the zip disk itself. And there it is. I also have check it on here. Let's just run that little diagnostic utility. Takes a little bit longer to load. Oh, don't worry about that. That's just the VGA adapter on this laptop. It's not totally compatible with the way check it draws that text mode graphics. So there it is. Check it is running. Well, here's checkit.exe. It's 350K or thereabouts. Let's just copy this to the C drive root directory, and we'll see how long that takes. And this is if I can find the / key. There it is. So 350 kilobytes. We'll let this copy in real time. Hey, that wasn't too bad at all. Not at all. So in the iOmega directory, this is what you're going to see. There's a bunch of files in here, but the reality is all you really need is these guest files, and then you need a couple sys files. So if I edit guest.ini, hopefully this shows up okay on the camera, but I remmed out every line in here except for these two, ASPI PPM1 and ASPI PPM2. Those are the parallel port drivers for zip drives. I think there are two different versions because some PCs slightly different parallel ports or whatever. But either way, I just had both these on here and it just absolutely worked. And I have personally used parallel port zip drives on a lot of different computers. Never used this particular one, obviously, because Mitch just sent this to me. But here I just loaded up Fast Tracker on the Panasonic Toughbook over the parallel port zip drive. Super handy. And I do have to say that iOmega zip drives have a bad rap for being very unreliable, but I mean, look how old this drive is, and it just worked perfectly. And to be honest, I have a few other zip drives, SCSI ones, and I have a USB drive. They all work perfectly as well. So I'm not quite sure why they have such a bad rap for being unreliable. Maybe there was a little bit of time where the mechanisms themselves were flaky and those have all failed. So the ones that are left all work reliably? Not quite sure. But also, of course, the power supply was bad on this, as I suspected. But with a different 5-volt power supply, this worked great. So thank you very much, Mitch, for sending this in. I really appreciate it. Well, that's gonna be it for this mail call video. Thanks to everyone who sent stuff in. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully this video wasn't too long. I will be trying to keep these short. So if you liked this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. But if you didn't, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs down button. Hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. And of course, the little bell icon for notifications. And put your comments and your suggestions in the comment section below. I really appreciate it when you do that. And that's gonna be it. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.